G'day, ZiggyD here with some Diablo 3 news, and today I just want to talk about some of the defensive skill changes coming in Diablo 3's patch 1.0.5. A lot of the changes appear to be huge nerfs to survivability, however the patch is also heavily reducing the amount that mobs hit for. When the patch hits, your survivability is going to increase with much less armor and resistance than you have now. The point of this is to make defensive skills less necessary across the board, whilst opening up more options for offensive skill sets. By changing the importance of defensive skills, many offensive skills are going to be indirectly buffed. Just to reiterate this in a different way, if you don't change your current defensive build, you'll be around 20% more survivable than you are now. This gives you room to drop one or two defensive skills or even some gear-based mitigation without becoming more squishy than you were before the patch. So let's move on to some specific changes for each class. Starting with the Barbarian, the Warcry Impunity rune is currently used by 87% of level 60 Barbarians. As a result, it's having its bonus resistance reduced from 50% to 20%. Again, with the other changes in the patch, this will actually result in an increased survivability. If a monster dealt 70,000 damage in 1.0.4, it will now deal 52,500 in 1.0.5. Next up, Leap with Iron Impact is having its design altered a bit. Instead of a flat 300% armor bonus after use, it now gives a 100% armor bonus per mob hit. This makes the skill more beneficial if you leap into a large pack of mobs compared to if you leap onto one. The reason for this is that they felt Ignore Pain and Leap functioned in the same way, as a defensive cooldown. Now Ignore Pain is your defensive cooldown, while Leap is for people that want to jump into battle and unleash for a few seconds. Next up, the Demon Hunter. The Demon Hunter is getting by far the biggest changes in the functionality of its defensive skill set, with some skills changing completely. Shadow Power is being changed from a 3-second 20% lifesteal to a 5-second 15% lifesteal. Obviously this is a slight buff, but it should also make the skill much easier to use. All of the Shadow Power runes are seeing a similar increase in length and decrease in intensity. Most importantly, Gloom will now be 35% damage reduction over 5 seconds. Here is where it starts to get really interesting. Spiders, boars and wolf companions are all going to become actual pets that can tank damage for you. This has potential to make some new interesting builds and playstyles, especially when combined with the next change, which is you can now have 2 sentries out at once. Sentry has been given a short cooldown, but after that cooldown you can now place the second one without the first disappearing. On top of this, the passive custom engineering will allow you to have 3 sentries out at once. This should be very exciting for players that like to set up a killing field of sentries, caltrops and spike traps to sit in while they unleash rapid fire. Next up we have the Monk. The first thing mentioned for the Monk is the strength of 1 with everything. The dev blog says they really want to change this, but they aren't going to rush it. This is because of how much it influences gearing choices and value of gear. No firm words on changes here, other than they want to change it in a way that doesn't invalidate current gear choices. Next up, Resolve is having its damage reduction reduced from 25% to 20%, in line with decreased mob damage. Seize the Initiative is being changed to grant 50% of your dexterity as armor. This should give most monks between 750 and 1250 more armor. With these changes, it is still possible to make a super tank as a monk just by taking all 3 defensive skills. However, this should now be less mandatory in Inferno for monks that don't want to be a huge tank. The Witch Doctor had a lot of changes in patch 1.0.4 and is expectedly not seeing as many this time around. The only change planned for 1.0.5 is a slight change to Jungle Fortitude to bring it in line with the new mob damage numbers. Finally, for the Wizard, Energy Armor is having its armor reduced from 65% to 35%, and the Prismatic Armor rune is having its resistance increase reduced from 40% to 25%. There are also other planned changes for the Wizard that are just mentioned briefly, including a possible flat melee damage reduction for Ice Armor, and a familiar rune that gives life regeneration. However, no firm words on these changes yet. So that's it for the planned class changes. It's worth mentioning something that the devs closed with at the end of the blog. Inferno will be easier post-patch. However, the addition of Monster Power and the Infernal Machine mechanics should provide an alternative challenge for players who prefer challenge over simply finding efficiency. So here's my question for you. How do you feel about these changes, and do you prefer challenge or efficiency in Diablo games? I know many people fall on either side of the challenge versus efficiency debate, with myself opting for more challenge. I'm interested to see what this patch brings on both sides of that equation. That's it for today. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.